Aloha, everyone. Welcome to Chesapeake Movies and More. And if you haven't noticed, the show has been on kind of an extended hiatus lately, which is largely due to a lack of content. This is the year 2020, after all, the year of lockdowns, shutdowns, everything getting postponed. So there haven't been a lot of big new happenings in the entertainment industry. No big night great movies to geek out about. So there just hasn't been as much to say. Combine that with a few relatively minor technical issues, and it just hasn't been worth putting out too many episodes lately. But I did come up with something I did want to talk about. Last weekend was Independence Day weekend, and my mother says to me, she says, "Can you find us a good, appropriate movie to watch for Independence Day weekend?" So I thought about it for a while, came up with a few options that didn't work out, and then I thought about a movie that I had never seen. It's an older movie, but it checks out. It's a Mel Gibson movie from probably early 2000s. I haven't even looked it up. Um, it's called The Patriot, and we watched that first time I had seen it, but ended up being very entertaining and very appropriate for Independence Day. And I found that I did have quite a bit to say about it. So, if you don't know the movie, it's about a war hero from the French and Indian War, who was played by Mel Gibson. And Mel Gibson, uh, in his younger days, was in the French and Indian War, but at this point in his life, he's done with war. He's had his fill of it. He's now a widowed farmer raising seven children. And early on in the movie, he's invited to this kind of like a town hall meeting, and they discuss the possibility of a war for independence. When he is asked to give his 2 cents on the issue, he though he says he hates taxation without representation, he's not willing to go to war himself. He's got too much at stake. He's a father. The mother is out of the picture. She's gone. So he's got seven children that he's responsible for, and he's not willing to go to war himself, and he's not going to vote for a war to force others to fight in his stead. It would be against his principles to do so. So he just wants to stay out of it. His oldest son, played by Heath Ledger, does not agree with him, and his oldest son goes off to join the colonial army. So, with his oldest son off joining the army, he goes back to his farm with the rest of his children. And then one day, the eldest son, Heath Ledger, shows up. He's on a mission, passing through. Very important mission, but the British are on his tail, and he needs a place to hide out. But it doesn't do any good. The redcoats find him, and the whole army comes down on this farm, and they arrest Heath Ledger, and they're going to execute him. They make no bones about it. They're going to execute him, and the second eldest son, who's maybe about 14 or 15, is not willing to just stand by and watch his older brother get hauled off to die. So he attacks the soldiers that were holding him, try to help his brother escape, and then the commander of the British troops, a British colonel, just shoots the 14, 15-year-old kid right in the back, and he dies. He dies in Mel Gibson's arms. And they haul off the eldest son, Heath Ledger. A garrison breaks off from the rest of the army to take him to wherever he's going to be executed. And so after the second oldest son dies, Mel Gibson takes a couple of his other sons and some rifles, heads off into the woods, cuts off that garrison that was taking Heath Ledger off to be executed, and he kills them all, rescues Heath Ledger, and then from there, he and Heath Ledger go back to the army. Mel Gibson joins the militia and leads a militia group in a fight against the British. That ends up being an important battle in the Revolutionary War. So I don't want to give away plot points beyond that. That's pretty much the setup of the movie. If we get too far beyond that, we're going to get into spoilers. But we'll talk about some interesting things I saw in this movie. One thing I noted was you do see Revolutionary War era warfare conducted, which is you would have these just two opposing armies just beat in an open field, just lined up row after row after row, with the low-ranking soldiers in the front few rows and officers in the back riding on horseback, and they would just march towards each other, draw their muskets, and just stand facing each other and just fire at each other. And as one row does this, and then the next row, and then the next row. And my mom was watching this, and she was she's like, "Oh my gosh, they're nothing but human shields." And I remember this from my history classes. That is actually how warfare was done. Actually, the Revolutionary War was kind of a turning point, in that American militia forces were kind of turning that around, they're starting to use the tactics of using the terrain to your advantage. But at this time, warfare was conducted this way because it was seen as being more civilized. But it occurred to me that's how uncivilized it really was, and how really barbaric it was. Is you took the low-ranking troops and just put them right in there, right in front of the bullets, with no trenches, no cover, no armor, nothing to stop the bullets but their bodies. And it just just casually throwing lives at the problem. And while the higher ranking officers were in the back, out of range of the weapons fire, just ordering everyone that ranks lower than them to go forward and walk right into weapons fire on their behalf. It just seems so barbaric. They claimed it was civilized, but it seems that they were confusing orderliness with civilized, as it was orderly, but it was just so callous about human life. Warfare since then has been different, and it's been uglier. But yeah, it's at least we were trying to protect every single one of the combatants. We were giving them trenches, and, using the terrain to find cover, and giving them armor, and so on. So it's more chaotic, but at least we're trying not to get our people killed. So that's all historically accurate. That's how warfare was done at the time. So that is one thing I noticed there. But I think overall the thesis for the film was very important too, because I think the thesis of the film was about do the ends justify the means? Because it pretty much, you have your hero and your villain, and they're contrasted to each other. The hero being Mel Gibson, who leads the militia, and then the British are led by this colonel who is very cruel and callous. And we learn that later on, not to give too much away, but the Mel Gibson's character had done things during the French and Indian War which changed him, which made him not sleep so well at night. and this is a big reason why he was so reluctant to go to war again, because he didn't like who he became because of it. Um, and he was always questioning whether those ends did justify those means. But then you have this British colonel who, for him, the ends always justify the means. There's no question about it. Never even questions it. He would do some of the most horrible, despicable things. I mean, he would target children. He would target non-combatants. He would target his enemies' families, and never think twice about it. As long as it led to England winning this war, then he was okay with it. It did not bother his conscience one bit. And so clearly, it's making the case that the ends rarely justify the means. At least that's what it seems to me, and it makes the case in a very visceral way. So I really enjoyed the film because of that. When I went to find this movie, The Patriot, I think this is the first time it has ever happened to me. I remembered the movie. It occurred to me it might be a good movie for Independence Day, and then I go to Netflix to look it up, which is like often like the first place I try. And I don't think I've ever like actually just thought of a movie I wanted to see, gone to Netflix, and it actually was there. But this time it was. It was like the first time it actually was there, unless it's like a brand new movie that's like would have just hit Netflix. If it's an older movie, and usually I can't find it on streaming services. I come up with hey, that's an older movie I never saw before, or I saw a long time ago and I want to see again. And I wonder if I can find it on streaming services. Usually the answer is no. I guess there's just so many movies out there that just picking one at random and expecting to find it on a streaming service, I guess the odds are against you. But this time I did find it. It came right up on Netflix, like first place I looked. So that was very fortunate, and got a very interesting movie. It is an R-rated film because it does show some pretty gruesome combat scenes. There's some pretty horrific things. I was kind of like shocked at one point. I'm like oh my gosh, when I saw something that happened with a cannonball. I'm not gonna get too much into it, but yeah. So if you're squeamish about gore, and I think most people I know they don't mind horror movies or anything like that, so I don't think it's going to bother most of the people I know. But if you're squeamish about that, you may want to keep that in mind. But otherwise, it's a very good film, very emotional film. I won't speak to its historical accuracy entirely, but it does get certain historical points right, like the method of warfare, and so on. So yeah, I do recommend this. If I were to give this a letter grade, I think it was very well done, and it did hit me emotionally. I don't think it's one that has a ton of rewatchability to it. Like maybe like every now and then on an Independence Day weekend or something, you might put it on. But it's not one I'm gonna keep like it's not a Star Wars where I'm gonna keep going and putting it on over and over again. So from that, I think it's a solid B. I'd say it's a solid B if I'm gonna give it a letter grade. But that is still a good recommendation, and it is on Netflix. So if you want to go see it, you have that option. Anyway, I'm not sure how often I'm going to record videos during the shutdowns, the lockdowns, and so on. I don't know when they're going to start releasing stuff again. They've had release dates. I don't know if they're going to push them back further. Now, I hear that The Mandalorian season 2 is supposed to be completely filmed already, and it's going to drop when it was regularly scheduled to, which I think is in September. That's still a ways off, but that might be something worth talking about. But I might see if I can try to find something worth talking about in the meantime. But yeah, the videos will probably be coming out pretty slow, as it's just really hard to find something I think anybody else would be interested in hearing about, while there's just like nothing's happening. Everything's just on this big huge pause. But it is what it is. So like, comment, subscribe, and that's a wrap.